other package here, and then I can edit it down a little bit faster using this other package. All right, if I so choose to edit it. Right. Okay. So let me just do a quick check here. Okay. So I don't need to look at that anymore. All right, so we're gonna learn in this a couple of different ways. That's what they call the pedagogy. Okay, so you'll hear it from me, and then you're gonna hear it during a video today. Okay, and I've made the video available. I'll show you after the video. All right, so I'm gonna come over here. Okay, and okay, what is this? What are we gonna get into here today? All right, so by the end of today, we're gonna understand how we competitively develop a product. We develop a product that'll be competitive. Okay, so this is a classic, get it tattooed on the inside of your eyeballs or your eyelids here. Okay, this is a classic chart, and hopefully you've seen it in marketing or you will see it in marketing. This is about as common a chart as anything out there. Okay, this challenges SWOT, which I don't think we went over very much in detail in here, but the SWOT diagram is also a quadrant framework like this. Okay, how many people have seen SWOT?
I have.
Vince has. You have? Okay. So does anybody remember what the letters stand for?
Opportunity, strengths, weaknesses, and threats.
Threats?
You got it. Okay, very good. Okay. All right. So this is just universal, it's ubiquitous, SWOT. And then right up there in the world of trying to do a framework around your market approach, okay, you'll take a look at this quadrant. Okay. So vertically, we're talking about the market segment that we're going into. What kind of market are we going into? Across the bottom is this product. And when we say product, we can mean service. It's the generic form of product, not necessarily tangible. Okay. All right. So if you go for commodity, the lower left-hand quadrant down here, this means that you're not having to tell the customer, your segment, what this product is and introduce it that well. It's already been out there a bit. So the worst case is it's a commodity. People are familiar with this. Things have been done in it. A lot of the risk has been taken out of it. It's profitable, but the problem is there's a low barrier to entry because people understand what the market will pay for. Okay, and so that means in the market, what kind of market does this go into? It's already established. Okay, see that? Right? So this is like me going, I'm going to make a cell phone. You have to have something really strong to be able to play down here in the lower left-hand corner where everybody knows about cell phones and whatnot. All right. Okay. But now we move to the right and we say, what if this is a new product concept? Okay. Well, what you can do is you can sell to your old customers. So you go back to the familiar set familiar, and this could be a new product, but this is incremental to it, or it's revolutionary. Okay. So what happened is the progress of how we have cell phones. For a long time, there were pagers. Okay, to give you an example of what this is like, people had pagers on their belt. And I remember people really excited about this because some of them even had a little display on there and they would sign up. They started paying for services for like sports and stock ticker information, right? And you'd have this one line, it wasn't even 16 characters long or something, and you used to get your information that way, right? And then they said, hey, you know what? We got these things called cell phones. And if you want to think about it, these are like your flip phones. Okay. And so people still had to kind of carry their pagers and whatnot. Okay. Well, what happened is they started throwing a lot more ability into pagers. Actually, there was this kind of this middle ground morphing, and they had PDAs, personal digital assistants. And this was, I mean, these were probably around the year you were born. I'm thinking, they were dying out right about the year you were all probably born, right about then. And you would go into the equivalent of Best Buy, and it would be racks of these things like there were cell phones. They'd have a rack of cell phones, and they'd have a rack of PDAs, okay? And then they came together, okay? The PDA had all kinds of things on there like calculator. It might have had pager capability on it and whatnot, all these other things. A personal digital assistant And when I remember living through the 3 or 4 years it took, because I was involved in this industry indirectly, that don't buy a PDA. There becomes the product life cycle. Okay, so what happened is here's the end of the pagers is coming down here, and the PDA is eating it up. So people are getting out of pagers and they're going into PDAs, right? But then here's the advent. This is time down here, and this is sales going up here, or market size, dollar sales or market, right? And so as the PDAs were getting up there at the top, people stopped buying them when the cell phones were coming out. Sharp decline because they had all the functions and then some. Okay, so these would be the smartphone. We'll call this a smartphone over here. Okay, so get it? No matter what you're working on as far as a product, you're living inside a product life cycle and a sector life cycle as well. Okay, all right. It's really hard to buy a PC. Doesn't matter what laptop. A laptop. It's really hard to find anything differentiating laptops. You have to wheel back to the time when every 3 months it went from what were the big things at first were screen size and quality. Okay, it was screen, speed, okay, that kind of thing. And the features that kept coming in here was first there was sound, became a big thing because
Excuse
remember,
me, Professor.
yeah,
I'm having trouble understanding what is, or if you could define for me, the
right.
sector life cycle and the production life cycle.
Right. So if you look at the product life cycle, right, there's things that we don't even buy anymore. I have a feeling because I have nephews and nieces your age. Many of you were weaned on what was it called? Veggie Tales, right? Everybody knows that song. I sure do from hanging around my nieces and nephews, right? Okay, so where's that? It falls out, especially media. It's something else nowadays. It's whatever replaces that. So the product is going to have a life cycle, and it never really maybe dies because it's has a lasting quality. It doesn't go to zero. But the same thing about a sector, like the whole sector of PCs started out, and it was really competitive. People were trying to come up with new features. Okay, and so at all there was a difference between a PC versus an Apple, right? And nowadays there's so much overlap. They look different, but I'll tell you what, if you pay the same money for a PC, you're going to get equal or better performance than an Apple. I'll tell you right now. There's a premium cost for the style and what would you say, the brand of it. A lot of people carry Apple partly because it's the brand. It's a nice clean image, all that, right? But that's all over. What happened is this is consolidated. What is it? There was Gateway for a while. There was Dell. I mean, I think they're kind of these two. One bought out the other, right? IBM PCs ended up becoming Lenovo, right? Like huge consolidation where there's no more differentiation going on. That's what your sector maturity means. So not only do the products have a life cycle, but right now the sector of the PC, right, is gotten eaten up a little bit. Well, for one thing, it depends on what you want to define, because then you have tablets came along, and then smartphones. I mean, they cannibalize each other. Smartphones and tablets are taking out. You all do far more on your phone than I do. Look, if you meet with me, I have a big 17-inch laptop, right? Because I need big space. All right, right. Okay. So anyway, so we got our head into what we're talking about here is we have to be savvy when we're entering a market. Okay. So the thing about this chart here is maybe we can come up with something that will draw users of the current technology into a whole new use case. They use things completely different over here. Okay, so a new product, but in an established market. Okay, now if we go up here, if we stick to the familiar market, I'm sorry, if we stick to the familiar product down here, right? This means up here, the new means we carry it to a new market. A very easy thing to understand here is globalization. Okay, so cell phones, for instance, was kind of weird where the U.S. was so invested in landline technology. We were not the first big adopters of cell phones. I went to Mexico in 1999-ish time frame, and it was easier to get a cell phone link than it was a landline, right? Okay, So this means taking something that you already have and go to a different place. That's like one of the easiest things to think about is go somewhere that doesn't have it, all right, and bring it into a territory that might not have it. But then this is sort of the golden. It's either the golden box or it's Death Valley up here. Okay, all this is huge risk in up here. This says I have a new product and I'm going to a completely new market. All right, and Apple tends to dabble up here. Google is another one, right? They come up with things that it's very arguable. It's not a pure case, not dichotomous or anything, but Apple is well known for selling the concept of the computing product back in the days of the competitive laptop world, right? They were competitive with computers and they were selling a style. And a lot of people were buying computers because it was kind of like, oh, okay, I need to have one of those. It sounds like the niche or cool thing to do, right? All right. So this is a very classic diagram. You don't have to be taught it again. You own this. Okay. So when you show up to class and I'm showing you these things, I'm not necessarily going to go over this again, but you need to understand when I'm delivering this to you, you have another framework now to go out and think about things. Like if you're going to introduce a product into the market. Okay. So only about 40 years ago did the voice of the customer, I'm using that very roughly. It's very arguable when, where, but the voice of the customer was not considered in the United States in a couple big ways. First of all, you've heard there's a saying whenever we talk about voice of customer, you're usually going to talk about Henry Ford. Okay, I'm going to go over here for some notes. Hold on. Okay, so people have heard what did Henry Ford say? Henry Ford. You can have a car in any color as long as it's black. Okay, as long. Has anybody heard that before? This is like a meme. This is the equivalent of like a business meme. Is the Henry Ford statement? Okay, so they came out with the Model A's and T's and things like that in the 1930s. All right, and you could only get it, and they were asking for punishment. Okay, so all you had to do was start another company. Oh, how about Chevrolet or General Motors? It's called General Motors. Right. General Motors was the first one. They challenged them with color, paint, All right. Okay. In that industry, it's always had a bit of hubris and it was very arrogant. So the cars up and through about the early 70s, like cars of quality in the United States, really across the board, didn't happen till, oh man, I even hate this. I'd say late 70s. What happened is Japan ate us up. Okay, so this is the big name in quality, J. Edwards Deming. Okay, you could find videos on YouTube. I think he passed away probably 7 or 8 years ago. So he didn't find an audience in the United States for his manufacturing quality.
Excuse me. So the downfall to Henry Ford was that he wanted the color of the car to be black.
He had no competition, right? He had no competition, so he's like, yeah, why offer colors when we don't need to, right?
Okay, and then the downfall to Chevrolet. What did you write here? Chevrolet.
Well, they're the competition. Oh, okay. You want to read that? I'll make a nice font there for you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I'm glad. No, it's good you're asking questions. But General Motors.
Oh, General Motors. Okay.
Yeah.
And then their main thing was paint. Right.
Well, I'm giving you an example. I mean, there was many ways that they competed. Okay, think about cars. We could all go to a lot and to a car lot and say you could pick out one car. We'd all pick different cars because we have different reasons. All right, and that question, Vince, leads right into what I'm talking about here today. Is in the 70s and 80s. Okay, there was still heavy hubris in our car manufacturing, and they were delivering junk. Okay. The number one junky car I remember was in high school. A friend of mine had a, what was it? It was a Maverick. Who made a Maverick? It was not Chevy. So the Maverick was rusting out. These things would last 5 years before the rust would punch out of them. And nowadays you get 20 years out of a car. Have rust out until about 12 or so years. You have very little body rust on it anymore. They've really gotten this thing down, okay? And the whole point here is J. Edwards Deming's a United Statesian, didn't get a audience here, and he went to Japan, And from that came, okay, so who knows what company is Datsun now? It's not
Ni-
called Datsun. Does
It's
anybody
Nissan,
know?
right?
Say again?
Nissan.
Yeah, yeah. They changed their name, right? So back then there were Datsuns and there was um, the rest of the Japanese onslaught that just crushed um, our own manufacturing was embarrassed. They had to be embarrassed into quality. And Edwards Deming, he went by his middle name, and his Edwards is because I think his mother's his maternal, his mom's side is Edwards. You know how people name people certain things, their children. So it says Edwards. It's got an S on the end of it. It's Edwards Deming. Okay, and within that, there's another gentleman called, his name is Crosby. We're going to come across that in chapter 12, I think it is. Okay, so I'm just giving you some names. All right, and believe it or not, like the United States companies were not talking to the customer. They were just giving us something that they were kind of half guessing at, and so things have gotten a lot more competitive. And now they come out, and in Japan, they developed something called the quality function deployment. And it's kind of has a slightly goofy name because there's no pure translation from Japanese to English. It's translated by concept. There's no there's no words that match up, or that words that have meaning behind them the same way. And so they call this in quality function deployment. And somewhere, if you just think about that a little bit, it means how to get something to the customers that they value. Okay, quality function deployment. All right. So how do you get quality into your product? All right. And so the major part of that is voice of the customer. Okay. And that just means ask them what they want. Okay. So all these companies had to get good at talking to the customer. All right. So it's layered. The top layer, you think of it as quality function deployment. The big part of that is voice of customer, and the mechanism is the house of quality. Okay. So I'm going to show you this. I think I have the version out of the book here. There was questions in the book. All right. So here's the generic view of what the house of quality means. Why does it called a house? Oh, gee, has a peaked roof on it. Wonderful. So it earned the moniker house of quality because it's got a peak and it's got wings. It's got basement. Okay. So that's why they call it a house of quality. All right. And if you get even mildly fluent with this, you can really do well in your career because it captures so many parts of business that you can be thinking. See, what you want to be doing is business is made up of a lot of meetings where the decisions are made. Okay. And so you want to have these core frameworks as people are discussing things. This is my relating to you why you want to know these is because you should be thinking about these things while there's someone's delivering their pitch, their proposition, or you're making the pitch. Okay. So the house of quality, the main parts are what does the customer want? The voice of the customer they're going to list what they want. And then there's a little box next to it where they're going to rate one against the other about how important they are. Okay. So don't go chasing off like something that's only 1% of interest to them, right? We want to knock off the big things first. All right. So how are we going to respond to what the customer wants? We're going to have a list across the top here of our technical requirements that help meet the customer requirements. We translate those into our company, how we're going to solve that. Okay. All right. And then what happens is really the main part of this structure that we're looking at is called they just call it the relationship matrix here in the middle. Wonderful. The names around these things they change a little bit depending on when you go out there and you search on the internet. A lot of people adopt them and they use different words, but the main part is going to be right here in the middle. And what this is it's a tabulated cross tabulation of, okay, for every customer requirement, we're going to match it up to the things that we do. Okay, so if you're a watchmaking company, you better have a really good little machining tools to make little tiny parts, right? Okay, so if you're a watchmaker, you don't want to have pool cleaning supply in your stockroom. I'm trying to create a ridiculous analogy here where you would not, you have to do the things as opposed to something wildly out of the box that you don't even need to do or have. You've got to do exactly what the customer wants, right? Okay. So that's what this main part of it is. So this is, whoops, I have to draw a box. It's a little tricky how to do this. Whoops. Not sure. Let me do that again. Okay. The core of it is this right here. This part here is the main core. Okay. And then we have some additional information here, here, and here. Okay. But this is the main core. Okay. So what does it look like when we put a little detail to this? Okay. When we start fleshing this out. Okay. So this is the example in the book. Okay. All right. So I just want to show you that what this really looks like. I showed you the generic form up here on the upper right, but this is the specific form over here. Okay. All right. With that said, okay, I put where's my window here? Over here. Okay, so I'm going to start this video. Okay, so you just make sure you're able to tell me. I'm going to restore it to make sure that I have the sound on here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start playing this video. We should be able to, I think, get through this. All right. But this is more of a description. You'll notice slight differences in what the model is that he's showing here. People tend to just touch these things up a little bit, but otherwise this is a very good video.
QFD actually is quite a broad concept.
Can you hear that? You can hear the video?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Really is, but at the absolute core of it is this, the so-called house of quality. Now, why is this called a house of quality? Well, I guess it kind of looks like a house. It doesn't look like my house, but it doesn't matter. It looks like a house nevertheless. Now, if you browse various sources, books or internet, doesn't matter, and you look for the house of quality, you will notice something. Each source uses a variation of this house of quality that looks slightly different from the other one. The reason is actually quite simple. There is no universal definition of how a house of quality should actually look like, but there is a core definition, and we use that core definition. So our house of quality contains all the elements that should be there, but maybe in another source you will find that there's an extra element there or an element that we use maybe not there. Does not matter. This contains all the important stuff. By the way, if you purchase this course, then attached to this video is a resource, a file that basically contains this. This is an empty house of quality that you can later use for your own studies or for your own work. So you can download this empty template as well if you have purchased this course. It is attached to the video. Also, an exercise is attached to this video, so please also download that. Let's go back to our house of quality. On the left side, we see the so-called voice of customer. That is what the customer, the potential student, says he or she wants. The program should be international, affordable, the degree should be respectable, the program should be flexible, a realistic pass chance, and the program should be cool, all right? Just fictional answers. Furthermore, we ask this hypothetical customer to give some kind of weight to these things that he or she actually wants. And we use 1, 3, and 5 as weights. 5 being very important, 1 being not so important, and 3 being something in the middle. Why 1, 3, and 5? Why not 1 to 10? Well, it's a personal choice. You can deviate from that as long as you give higher scores to things that are more important. It does not really interfere with the end result all that much. We use 1, 3, and 5. On top, we see the factors that we control. Now, what do we control? We control, for instance, the number of lectures, the number of tutorials, the number of research articles that our professors publish per year, or the approximation of that, the number of test moments, so how often can you do an exam, the number of online lectures, so the lectures that are available online on top of being also available physical, the number of foreign partners. These are foreign universities that we partner up with, and our students, for instance, can do an exchange program with them. The number of professors from the business world that maybe bring with them all kinds of interesting stories and cool stories that help to give the program a little bit spice, a little bit practical flavor. The number of elective courses, of course, we control, and the study cost is also something that we control. We also control a lot more, but we cut it off at this point because this is just meant to be an example. Now here in the middle part, you see all kinds of symbols scattered through. Now these symbols, they come actually from this part. So we see that we use the symbol, the cross, to indicate a strong relationship, and it has a numerical value attached to it, namely 10. We use the asterisk to indicate a medium relationship, and it has also a numerical value attached to it, namely 5. And if we don't use any symbol, if we leave it blank, then there's no relationship, or the relationship is very weak and it has a numerical value of 0. Again, 0, 5, and 10, these are just values that work for us. If rather you would use 1, 2, and 3, that is also okay. It won't really interfere with the end result all that much. So feel free to deviate if that is what you feel better with. Now, as far as the choice for these symbols, you actually do this in a group, a multidisciplinary group, not by yourself. So you invite a bunch of stakeholders, and then together you're going to brainstorm about the following. So for instance, should we put here a symbol or not? And in our fictional example, we put there a symbol. And to be more precise, we put there a cross, which indicates, just as we just showed you, a strong relationship. What does that mean? There's a strong relationship between this factor that we control, namely the number of foreign partner universities, and this voice of customer element, namely that they want to have the program to be nice and international. Of course, the more foreign partner universities you have, the more international experience you can potentially offer the customer. So that's why it has a very strong positive relationship there. Why is there no symbol here? Because there is no relationship, or a very weak relationship, between the number of test moments and the voice of customer that says, I want the program to be nice and international. That's why this part is empty. Okay, so I assume the logic there of these symbols and what you fill in when is now clear. I'm not going to waste your time by going through all of them. Please take into consideration that a level of subjectiveness is always there, okay? But you try to minimize the subjectiveness as much as possible by working in a multidisciplinary group, which hopefully prevents any kind of bias there, okay? But please realize, if someone else fills this in, there might be a slight deviation from what you fill in. What we do subsequently is we actually continue to these importance factors, which you see over here. Now let's have a look at one of these values. For instance, this value over here, 65. How do we arrive there at this value of 65? Well, we look at the symbols that you see in this column, and that is this one and this one. This one indicates a value of 10, and this one indicates a value of 5. You can see it basically here. Furthermore, we see here the weights. So we multiply the weights by the numerical value of these symbols. So we have 5 times 10, that would be this part, and we have 3 times 5, because this value is valued at 5. So 3 times 5 and 5 times 10. This is 50, and this is 15, and together they are 65. Okay, so together they are 65, and that explains basically why you have this value here. The same principle also counts for the other values. I'm not going to waste your time there. I'm sure the principle is now clear. Now, how do we interpret these values? Well, as follows. If we see here a very low value, for instance 5, that means that the factor that is attached to this value, namely the number of electives, does not have a very strong role in achieving customer satisfaction. So in satisfying this voice of customer, namely what the customer wants, this factor here is not a very important one. But this one here that has a very high value, namely the number of foreign partners, has a very strong effect on satisfying the voice of customers. So basically, the values that you see in this row indicate how strongly you should focus on those factors that you control. This is a very useful thing. Looking back at the problems that we faced when we wanted to redesign our program, I only wish that at that time we were aware of this tool and could utilize it, because it really helps you to focus your attention and see which factor should I focus on the most in order to satisfy the customer's demands. Now in this column, we provide information about our main competitor or our main competitors as an average, and we do it like that. If the competitor is not doing such a great job on that element, we give a score of 1, which indicates that the performance is quite bad. If their performance is okay, we give them 3, and if their performance is very good or excellent, we give them a score of 5. Again, 1, 3, and 5 is our personal choice. If rather you would like to do 1, 2, and 3, that is also fine, as long as it's clear to you and those working with you what you actually mean with these various values, and they should of course be in a certain order. In this particular case, for instance, we gave a score hypothetically of 1 in terms of the affordability when we look at our competitors. So in this hypothetical example, our main competitors have very bad affordability. In other words, their degrees are very expensive.
Okay. All right. I wanted to just end it there for a sec. All right, because we only have a few minutes here. All right. So the first thing is make sure that you upload something. We have a daily submit available. I'm going to double check we got that in there, right? Okay. So orange is today. It's this, the midterm week. Okay. And there is a submit for Friday right here. I'm just going to make sure the settings are correct. There's so many ways to get that wrong. Just want to make sure we have it right. So submit something into that while I finish off the little discussion about what he was just saying. This is some of these YouTubes have actually improved. I had trouble. I didn't really have much support on this topic through YouTube before. There was one really good example of a quality function deployment, House of Quality, and it ended before they only gave you like half or 3/4 of what the entire video was. It was weird. I don't know why they did that. Okay, so anyway, let's go to. I want to blow this up on the screen and just talk about where he was, what he was just saying. All right.
Professor, you're on mute. I don't know if you know that or not.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. Back again with you. All right. Okay, I just wanted to go over something. Just a few comments about this, so you should understand. I like what he's done here because he's kept it fairly simple. Okay, versus there's a little bit more detail when we look at the example from the book. Okay, so you want to take a look at this video and have the book version open. It's just a little bit different here. Okay, but I'm going to come back. I just want to ask some logic questions here. While I'm doing that, upload your daily submit, which can be anything, your resume, whatever it is. Hopefully it's your updated one that you talked to Ellen Morris Nolan about. Now you're all done with that part of it. I did have a couple students start showing up on LinkedIn. I was able to see them starting to put their posts up there. So get your 3 posts up on LinkedIn. All right. Make them interesting to you. Make them think about how they're going to be discovered when you're applying for a job and they do a social media audit of you, which they're going to do. And they come across some great things that you've been talking about. And as juniors, just don't stop doing this. In other classes, even write up what you're interested in other areas of your interest or your interest of where you want to get to work, especially start writing. You'll be surprised how interesting it gets once you start writing, because it causes you to critically think in great ways, and you're going to come up with some fundamentals about that industry. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this diagram here. Okay, I'm going to talk about this one here. Okay, so we can relate to what they have in the other one. I'm going to draw on this one. Okay, so remember, you have customer requirements down here. You go out to the customer and you say, what's important? And you might have sample 1,000 people. And what you do is you take the common terms they're interested in, and it comes down to these top 5 that you care to address. You think that if out of the 36 different items 1,000 customers told you about. There was 36 unique things that they came back with. You're still just picking 5 of the top most important ones. And you go back to your customers and you say, rank these. How important are these things to you, right? So that's the voice of the customer section over here. And this ranking, the higher is the more important. Okay. Okay. So now I want you to follow me on this. Those that aren't here today are going to have a little bit of trouble because this is a big point. Across the top here, across here, all right, these are our processes. Like in the Kibbe strand, each one of these would be cutting, sewing, dyeing, what are the ones? Embroidery, packing, and pressing and packing. Okay. And to make your customer happy, we have to look at what we're trying to do to make them happy and what are the things we do to make them happy. You got that? All right. So these are technical characteristics or functions. Okay. You can name them as technical characteristics. That means you have to be good. You have to have people, processes, machines, whatever, resources available to be really good at. Okay, so the example in the book was the energy needed to close the door. Okay. So when we're talking about cars, that we're just talking. I think we're just talking about some narrow set of things, right? Easy to close the door, the door stays open on the hill. Easy to open door, the door doesn't leak in the rain, and there's no road noise. Okay. Okay. So everybody should have uploaded that by now. I just want to make sure you're getting your attendance in here. All right. And get yourself set up to get your COVID tests. All right. I'm doing the same thing. Okay. So then as the gentleman in the video talked about is we use these symbols in here. Notice these symbols. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you something. There is no house of quality that has no mistakes in it. This has a mistake in it. His has a mistake in it. Okay. His has a mistake. All right. So anyway, you have to be careful what you're reading here. And the idea here is the importance scale, strong, 9, medium 3. What you do is you assign these symbols point values, right? So it looks like this is where they don't have the scoring down at the bottom of this. Okay, so they should have scoring down here. Okay, I'm not sure how to decipher what they have here because they have a bullet, like the bullet symbol, or target symbol like that, and they get 10 points for this process, and they have 6 points. This does not make sense. See, that's the problem I have with these is nobody's done one accurately. There's a problem in every single one of these. I'm going to go back over here. Okay. And I'm going to pick this up really fast here. And I just want to go over what he was talking about so you understand it. Come back over to Excel. Okay, so I'm going to put that in here. All right, now I can draw on that. Okay. All right, so he has a mistake. If you go by what he was saying, this number is incorrect right here. Okay. So the idea here is he calls this the controlled factors. What did we call it? The technical characteristics. So they use a little bit different technology or terminology in there, but the voice of the customer is here. Okay. So that is there. Okay. And then we do a number of things. Okay. So you have to look at these as investments of the company. We do this. We have people, we do training. We have, equipment to do any one of these things. All right. And so then what happened is he has a better system here where his stars were 5 and pluses were 10, right? So what you're looking at is where do lectures count in the whole realm of things here? Well, this is a bad diagram because there should be at least one entry underneath lectures. He specifically used an area here that worked for him. So let's ignore the fact that there's nothing there. But here's one really, really, really big point. Okay. So if you work in lecture builders, you're a lecture builder in this company, and you look down and the last poll we took of customers, or I have to let you go here, but take a look at the last. If there's no asterisk in here, there's no meaning to have lectures. Got it? If you work in this group, you're going to have a problem. You might have to be looking for another job.
Oh, he said, okay.
Get it? So the importance here, you can interpret in different business terms, but some of the biggest ones are 5. So there's 5 times 10 is 50 plus 3. That should be 5 times 10 is 50 plus 3 times 5 is 15. Yeah, okay, so that number is correct. So you see what I did there? It's the weight 5 times the value 10 plus the next one. The other one there is 3 times the value is 5, 15. So 50 plus 15 is 65. So you may want to think, some of us want to say, I want to work in the area that has the most meaning here, the most applicability, and that would be, I want a job with the Foreign Partners Group, whatever that does for here it's a college. All right, so I'm going to let you go. I can't hold you on, but the video is going to be available for you, and there will be some kind of questions about the parts that we went over in that video that he had. Okay.
Okay.
I'll
Quick
let you all
question.
go.
Could
Yes.
you please email that to me, to my email?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to post. See, I'm going to post the whole video. This video that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
I'll post that, and
Okay.
then I will post this file on today's tab, eClass tab.
Okay. Yeah. So you're gonna post it on my class too, correct? On day
on
2.
on eClass, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will send an email out to let everybody know about that. All right.
Thank you very much, sir. You
Okay. Have a
day.
good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
So
Professor.
those parts that you were doing before for the midterm, are you like, is that a part 2 that you're going to be uploading, or?
Yeah, we'll have the 4 parts.
Yeah, that. Because right now it only shows the extra 10 contracts uploaded on eClass for the midterm.
Right. Yeah, I'll have all the landing spots for these set up and the file to read. You'll go to eClass, you'll pull your exam from there.
Okay, and all this stuff is also due Sunday, or just the 10 contracts?
No, the 10 contracts and this is your midterm. Will be done Sunday midnight.
Okay.
All right.
Professor, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I missed class on Wednesday because I had an appointment that I scheduled a while ago. So I
Uh-huh.
was just wondering if I missed a lot on Wednesday.
I'll go back to Wednesday. Let me see if I did any what I did there. That's today. What's I using this on Wednesday? I got to think about it. I think this was I was talking to a student. I was coaching a student on that. You know what? I'm gonna have to think about that. Send me an email.
I did actually.
You did?
I never got a response. So
All right. You can always send me another one. I am getting a higher number of
Okay.
emails right now, so I might have even seen it, and it's just getting a little crazy here. That on top of a lot of extra
Okay.
meetings due to different reasons. But I apologize for not getting back to you.
No problem.
But I'll tell you.
And one more question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the midterm, is that going to be similar to the first exam? I didn't catch what you said. So is it going to be like you upload the files and then we have to complete the assignment and then upload it, or is
Yes.
it going to be timed? You mentioned something about 1.5 hours. Does that
Yeah,
mean that we have 1.5 hours to complete it?
Yeah, it's not timed.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be like the last exam then.
Yes. Yep. You have everything.
Okay.
Everything we used in class. And to your question, I'm trying to think. We were talking about the final report. Okay.
Oh, okay. That's
right,
due
so-
November 1st, right?
Yeah. Okay. Even I have so many moving parts. I'd have to look at that to answer you. But it's yeah. But we were talking about the final report, and I told everybody I was going to go over what was going to be on the midterm today. So nothing on Wednesday really affects what's going to be on the midterm.
Okay. And so the paper that's due on November 1st, did you upload a rubric for it, or?
Yes, I'll show you where it is.
Checked, so.
Yeah, let me go over
If
there.
it's on eClass, I could just find it. I just wasn't sure if you uploaded it.
It's actually
or
good
not.
for me to go over there. As I said, right now, the second half of all these courses, there's so many moving parts that I even have to use my own reference here. Yeah. So let's see, what did I do? Saturday, submit for Sunday, the final report. And what was your question? The
if
rubrics,
there's like
right?
a rubric, yeah.
Yep, right there.
Oh, there it
Final
is,
paper
yeah.
instructions. Yeah, very good. Good asking.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
I've been
I
telling.
didn't see that actually.
Yeah.
Is that viewable for our class too? Because when I looked under that section, it just showed the paper assignment due. Like I'll go to it right now. So it says submit Sunday 1st, November 23:59. I click that, and then oh, my mistake. Everything's there. Okay, no problem.
And it's perfectly fine because I might have made it available after you looked at it too. I mean, I don't remember when I actually showed this. What I try to do is keep people from getting confused and take things off the screen so that they can focus on something. So I don't know when I actually showed this. So last time
Okay.
you looked, it could have been hidden. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate your time, and hope you have a nice weekend.
Oh, thanks. You too. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye now.